Okay. Equations of lines. We're going to look at writing equations of lines, something that you did in Algebra 1 a lot, hopefully, that you're going to continue to need to do a lot in your math careers as you go throughout. And there are different forms of the equation of the line. This is just 2 of them. I have them big and bold on here where you don't even have to write them down because I want you to be able to read it and not write it down wrong, okay? But you've got point slope form because it requires a point in the slope to write it. And then the slope intercept form, or not to write it necessarily, but when it's in that form, you can see a point in the slope there. Slope intercept form, same thing. You've got the slope and you can see the y-intercept, all right? Now, you should have learned both of these forms, yes? Okay, so show of hands where the point slope form is your favorite. Okay, show of hands where slope intercept form is your favorite. Okay, you will change your mind before the end of the day. This is junk. Unless you are given the y-intercept, given, not that you can figure it out, not that you think you can guess it off the graph. Unless you are given the y-intercept, yuck. Okay? You're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be making your life a lot harder. You're going to write equations of lines a lot. Okay? You're going to do it a lot in calculus. If he hasn't done it so far yet, he's going to do it a lot. And you know what form you need to be able to do it in? This one. Everything should be done through this form. Even to get to this form, you should go through this form, which means you do this plus more work to get here. Why the heck do we love that? That makes no sense. You love this probably because you used it the most, so you were the most familiar with it, but that's not going to really help you any. Okay? I do want to show you, though, where this one comes from. Okay, so let's look at the slope formula. Okay, what is my slope formula from? Talked about it yesterday. Should be fresh on our minds. Kishara, what's the slope formula? Okay, so m is equal to delta y over delta x. And that's exactly what you should be able to tell me, right? Now, what I want now is what we actually do and what you would see most likely on a formula chart. She was right, and that is the answer that you should give me because that should be the first thing that pops in your head. But with the whole y's and x's and whatnot, Andy, what's the slope formula? Not y squared. No, we're not squaring y. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Okay, x2 over x sub 1. Okay, so this is the version where you can actually see what you're plugging in, which we really don't necessarily need to be able to see that anymore to actually get slope done, but that's what it is, right? So what if I wanted to get rid of my fraction? What do you do to get rid of the fraction? Anytime. Multiply by what? The denominator, right? So this is the denominator, right? So I'm going to multiply both sides by x sub 2 minus x sub 1, x sub 2 minus x sub 1, right? What happens on the right-hand side? They cancel out. And then, so what I have left is this. You see how this right here that I have left is just this rearranged? If I take what's left in the numerator, actually, I'll just rewrite it so I don't lose you. I'm going to put the m in front of this. So this is the same as m times x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1, right? Do you see how I got that from my slope formula? All I did was get rid of the denominator, get rid of my fraction. I have this. Isn't that pretty much that? The difference is when you write an equation, your x and y stay x and y. And you're not going to have just a bunch of numbers that you're going to plug in to find the slope necessarily. So the x sub x1, y1, these right here, those are the ones that become numbers. These actually just stay as the variables. So we would just put those in. But all this is, that just comes straight from the slope equation. That's it. Okay? But you need to know these. Okay, you need to know, I know you can tell me y equals mx plus b like that, and that's great, but you need to know what it means to be the point slope form. You need to know y minus y1 over m times x, equals m times x minus x1. That is the one you're going to use over and over and over again. And again, I will make you a believer. All right, so equation of a vertical line, x equals a, where a is the x-intercept. Get that? x equals a x-intercept, right? So if I give you x equals 4, then I can go to 4 on the x-axis, bam. That, I'm not done because that wasn't a point 4, 0, right? That is the x-intercept. So if that's the x-intercept, does it make any sense at all to try and make this a horizontal line? No. Okay? It's a vertical line. Oops. Oh, it would be better if it was actually like a line. And it's a line. To make that look like a line, what do I need? Arrows. Okay. And remember that x can divide like this, and that's for vertical. Okay. So y equals b, where b is the y-intercept. Y equals line gives you the y-intercept. So if I give you y equals -2, oh, 10, I'm not pushing the button. Y equals -2. I go to -2 on the y-axis. Then it makes no sense for this to be a vertical line. I get a horizontal line, put arrows because it is a line. And remember, if you have a lowercase cursive y and you rotate that around, you get a lowercase cursive h for horizontal. A review from yesterday, which was a review from last year, you can't mess this stuff up anymore. Well, good? All right, let's go to the inside here. Alrighty, so this says, write the equation of each line in point-slope form. So point-slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. In order to write that, to write it, I need a point and the slope. Do I have a point and a slope? Yes, I do. Okay, so here's my point. Here's my slope. So I'm going to plug this in, and this is going to be y minus what? 1 equals my slope, which is 3, times x minus what? -2. Okay. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to do y minus 1 equals 3 times what? X. 3 times x plus 2. Okay, so then what do I do? If you do anything else, it is not in point-slope form. You're done. Yeah. So guess what? All that time you spent looking for B your whole life, you really don't care where B is. You don't care at all. It is a total waste of time unless you need it for something. But in this case, finding B wouldn't be that bad. The numbers wouldn't be that bad. But have you ever had to find B and the fractions are yucky and then you got to, yeah, yuck. And trust me, anytime I give it to you and I think you're going to do that, I'm going to give you some nasty, yucky fraction, and you're going to wish you hadn't ever even learned y equals mx plus b. This is it. You are done. That's it. Stop. This should totally be your favorite. Okay? We good? All right. Now let's look at this next one. Actually, I want you to do this. You want to know one reason why I think this one scares you a little bit? Is because you're not, like if I said close your eyes and tell me what that is, some of you would be a little uncomfortable being able to just rattle that off, right? Once you know this and it's really not that big of a deal, the whole thing's going to be not that big of a deal. So write this every single time you do one, and by the time you're done with the assignment, you'll know it, right? That's different than memorizing. That's doing and learning and understanding. Okay. All right, so I'm going to have somebody walk me through this. Marco. All right, so tell me what I start by writing down. Okay. Okay. Good. Do I need to do anything else? Yeah, what do I need to do? All right. Do I do anything else? No. Now you're done and you stop. Okay? Yes. Right now, yes. You need to at least right now because some of y'all gonna mess that up. A couple of things here. Notice that if I was to distribute and I was to keep going, -2/3 times that -4 is going to give me a +8/3. And then I'm going to have to move that 6 over, and you're adding and subtracting fractions. So don't tell me you would rather do y equals mx plus b right here because I know you hate fractions, right? You stop. Who cares about the fractions? You're done. But one thing about fractions, and I touched on this a little bit the other day, but you see how I wrote that horizontal fraction bar? I do not want you doing the slashy fractions like this anymore if you're doing that. You need to learn to break that habit. Again, I will never count it wrong. It's not wrong, but it will cause you issues as we get into some more complicated stuff if this is a habit for you. So it may take some time for you to kind of break that habit of yourself if you've just done that forever, but really it's going to be better for you to do it the other way. Okay? Every now and then I have to type things this way because it's just easier, but you know, I try and type it the right way when I can. Sometimes it's not worth the hassle. And again, it's not necessarily wrong. All right, so now this says write the equation of each line in slope-intercept form. And so that is y equals mx plus b. Now, there's more than one way to find the b when you don't have it, right? But we have to have the slope and the y-intercept in order to write the equation of this line. I don't have either one, right? But I have 2 points, so can I find the slope? Yes. Okay, so we're going to find the slope. Slope is delta y over delta x, and that's equal to 9 minus a -6 over 8 minus a -12. So what's 9 minus a -6? 15 over what? 20. Can I reduce that? 3/4. Okay, so there's my slope. So I've got that. Now, how many of you learned that to go and fix and to finish this so that you can find b, that you plug in your slope, you plug in one of the points, you do some work, you find b, and then you go plug it back in? Raise your hand if that's how you were taught that. Okay, that's not wrong. There's nothing wrong necessarily with that. However, if you go about it that way, what I see a lot of times after that is you do weird things. You plug the wrong thing back in, or you don't even use the right x and y, or you forget to replace b. I don't know. There's just all kinds of hot mess of stuff. But basically, it's requiring you to go off to the side and read and do something and then come back and plug it in. Where you could just start off by going ahead and using this, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and you're going to get it done all in one step. Okay? Now, I have 2 points. Does it matter which one I use? It actually doesn't. Now, in the end, our answers might look a little bit different, but they'd be the same line. It's one of those situations where the line's the same, even though the equation looks different. So you get to choose. You only get to use one of them, but you get to choose which one. Which one are you going to pick? Absolutely, you can pick the negative. It's a matter of, you can pick the negative if you want. Knock yourself out. But we might make less mistakes if we use this one. Again, in the end, it wouldn't matter. So I'm going to plug all this in. I'm going to do y minus 9 equals the slope, which is 3/4, times x minus 8. Now, I'm not done because that is not slope-intercept form. That's point-slope form. Now, because I want slope-intercept form, I'm going to keep going, right? And so this gives me then y minus 9 equals 3/4 x. And what's 3/4 times 8? 6. So minus 6. Which means y equals 3/4 x, what? Plus, what? 3. And then you're done, and it's all in one step. And you don't have to go and find b and plug it back in and do all that mess. So point-slope form, you can use even if you want slope-intercept form. But if we got to choose which form to put it in, we could have been done a long time ago. But this one worked out okay. Let me give you a second. Go ahead and get started on this one. And I want you, even if you learned b the other way, like finding b, I want you to try putting this in y equals mx plus b using point-slope form. That's going to be helpful to you. Let me get another pencil. You should be writing. Haven't gotten this far yet. What do I get when I distribute this? 3/5 x minus what? 24 over 5. I still got to move that 10, right? Y'all still want to tell me how much you love y equals mx plus b? I'm just wondering because right here, this is point slope form, and we would have been done. Right? All you're trying to do is write the equation line. Why the heck would you move on? Now here it tells you to, so you have to, but you're going to have a really hard time convincing me that you just think y equals mx plus b is the bee's knees, and that's just the way it should go, because this is a heck of a lot easier, especially when the fractions get yuckier. So when I keep going here and I get y equals 3/5 x minus 24 over 5, I got to do the plus 10, but what do I have to do when I add fractions? Common denominator, what's my common denominator going to be? 5, so what does this give me? 50 over 5. So that means that y equals 3/5 x plus 26 over 5. Now, this really wasn't that big of a deal, and you shouldn't have issues with fractions like this. But at the same time, look at all this stuff that you had to do, and the fractions could have been yuckier when you could have stopped a long time ago if you could have used that form. Now, this one did say put it in y equals mx plus b, but so I kind of had to on this one. But again, I wanted to show you that. Okay, we good? Trust me, I'm going to make you a believer for reasons that will benefit you. Okay, so let's do another one. It says write the equation of each line in point slope form. Okay, point slope form. That means y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I have to have a point and the slope. I have 2 points. I don't have a slope. Can I find the slope? Yes, we should totally be capable of that. M is delta y over delta x. So that is negative 4 minus 6 over 5 minus 2. So it's going to be negative 10 over 3. Okay, so there is my slope. Now, does it matter which point I use? No, I just got to pick one of them. The slope is the slope no matter what. There's an infinite amount of points on there. I know 2 of them. Okay, so which one would you most likely pick? 2 and 6. Okay, so let's do that one. So this is going to give me y minus 6 equals negative 10/3 times x minus 2. Do I do anything else? No, that's it. I've got this. But I want you to see that if, let's say this was a question on your homework or on a test or something, and you chose 5, negative 4, or maybe both points have a positive and negative or whatever, so one isn't necessarily better than the other, you can have 2 different answers, and you and your neighbor can have different answers and both be right. So let's say that we choose this one. Then it would be y minus what? Negative 4 equals the slope, which is still negative 10/3, times x minus 5, right? Do I need to clean this up a little bit? Okay, listen real carefully. Clean things up does not mean go forth and do every bit of math you could possibly do, okay? Clean it up just means you got to take care of this minus and negative stuff. That's it. And you stop. You got to teach yourself to stop. So I get y plus 4 equals negative 10/3 times x minus 5. Okay, so both of these are right answers. This is one of those cases where if I had you graph this line, and then I had you graph this line, it would graph right on top of itself because it's the same line. Okay, just a different way to do the thing. We good? All right, awesome. So I want you to do this one. Get started on this one. I'm going to go check roll. Now you're probably not finished, but I want to be able to have time to talk through the graphs, so I'm going to go ahead and... what would be the best thing for us to do before we start? Yeah, make them into points. So if the x-intercept is 3, let's see what a pair look like. 3, 0. And the y-intercept is -5, it would be 0, -5. Okay. So then we're going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we need to find the slope. Delta y over delta x. Good. So we'll do -5 minus 0 over 0 minus 3. Which gives me -5 over -3, which is 5/3. That's your slope. Everybody okay with that? All right, so then I'm going to put it into point slope form. So I'm going to do it with both points just so that you can see it. So we'll just start with this first one right here. So this is going to give me y minus 0 equals 5/3 times x minus 3. Now, because it's y minus 0, you can just make it y, but you can also leave it like that. And if you can stop, I suggest you just stop. Because what's going to happen is you're going to do that, and then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I can distribute. And you're just going to have to want to keep on going and keep on going. And you just got to stop. Just learn to stop. Okay? And then that, or we could also have y minus a -5 equals 5/3 times x minus what? 0. Now, over there I didn't have to clean anything up, but I could have. Here, do I have to clean something up? Then -5. So this is going to be y plus 5 equals 5/3. Now, you could leave it like this, and it's fine. It actually might be better for you to kind of see the format. But since I had to clean that up anyway, I can just make it like this. That's fine too. Like leaving it like this is not okay. But whether this is x or x minus 0, that's fine, and it's still point slope form, and you're good. Okay. Yes, as long as you fix that part. Yes, so like that part could be. And for you to understand where the point is, it might be better for you to see it that way, but it's right either way. Okay, we good? Okay, so now one of the reasons I think that you are so in love with y equals mx plus b is from a graphing standpoint, right? And that's good. It is good for graphing. Like if you had to graph this line, you should be able to do this with absolutely no problems, right? We go to 1 where? On the y-axis, because this is y equals mx plus b, right? So we go to 1 on the y-axis. And then from this point, we count the slope, right? Our rise over run is 3/2. And how many of you would go down 3? Just wondering. And that's fine. It's not wrong as long as you know which way to go. I just find it very odd that we call it rise over run and then we tell you to go down. Right? Doesn't that sound weird? I feel like you should always rise and then you just run the other direction, but it's the same thing either way. So you could go down 3, into the right 2, okay? To me, it makes more sense to rise 1, 2, 3, but then run to the negative numbers. Is it the same thing on the same line? Yes, as long as you graph it right, who cares? But sometimes you don't have room on your graph, so you need to know both ways. And then, but you only have to do 2 points. You wouldn't have to do 3. Okay, everybody good? No brainer. Now over here, on this one, how many of you would change that to y equals mx plus b to go graph it? Yeah, nobody cares where the y-intercept is. Don't waste your time. Because this is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Right? So you can tell me a point, what's the slope of this line? 2/5. Do you know a point on this line? It's 2, 3, right? Does that make sense? So can you go plot a point on this line? Yes, you go to 2, 3. And then just like over there when you went to 0, 1, and then from that point you counted the slope. Now, from this point, you count the slope. You go up 2, 1, 2, and you go over 5, 1, 2, 3, we go off the graph. So instead, I could still go down, right? But then I go the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't do more work just make your lines straight. Don't do more work just because you can. Learn how to use what you have, because there's going to be all kinds of forms of different things that you end up doing that you need to know what they look like. You need to know how to pull stuff right off of that so you're not having to do a whole bunch of work for absolutely no reason. Because this y-intercept is not a whole number, and that's going to be a problem for you. Okay? Because then you're guessing when you're graphing, and that's not good either. Questions? Awesome. Go ahead and glue that in.